Hi everyone, welcome back. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I'm really excited to show you this month's stitched dies from Spellbinders. This is one of their new club kits. Ever since its release in January, every month it's been selling out really fast. So if this is something you're interested in, I would go ahead and order it as soon as you can. It's called Nested Layered Stitched Petal. So this first piece is the decorative piece. You don't stitch on that, but it's this second layer that you're going to be stitching on. It has these gorgeous diamonds. And then there's even a third layer, and it's this die right here, and it cuts out these little petals. And I'll show you how this layers up in just a minute. And then we have the fourth layer, the small die, and it goes right in the center, and it's intended for a sentiment. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut out everything and show you what these look like. So here's the first layer. It's just, again, it's a decorative piece. Here's the stitching piece. And then this die was really fun. I started cutting out the petals, and I loved how it looked once it was cut out. So I'm going to use this as a background for my second card today. I love being able to stretch my dies and use them for other things. So this is going to make a really fun background panel. I'm going to go ahead and stamp out my sentiment on this fourth layer, just onto some white cardstock. And I'm using a set of really small stamps that came out in November of last year. It's called Sealed Sentiments. This will fit perfectly in this small centerpiece. And the stamp I chose to use says Handmade with Love. So I'll go ahead and stamp it first, and then I'll die cut it. And I'll go ahead and do that off camera. But let me show you how to stitch these. It's a little bit different this time. So I taped my silver thread onto the back of my stitching piece. I'm using 2 strands of the silver thread. You'll want to start at one of the corners of the diamonds, and then you're going to skip every other hole. So I'm going into the third hole. And then again, I'll go back into the center hole. This silver thread is really pretty, and I love how it looks, but it is a little bit slippery and a little more challenging to work with, so I kind of have to hold it down while I stitch. And then again, I'm going to skip one hole and come up the next one. And I'll do this all the way around the diamond, and here it is all done. So now we can start stitching on the petals or the leaves, whatever you want them to be. And I cut those out with some Fruit Punch pink cardstock. Now these are going to center right over the holes that you skipped. And so you're going to come up the first hole, go down the next hole, and I'm just going to do a little bit of back stitching here. Let me pull my thread through. I'm using some pink embroidery floss for the petals, and it's fun because you can use different colors of embroidery floss on these. And then I'm going to come up the third hole, and then I'll go back into the second hole. And these are really fast to stitch on. Then I'm going to skip the third hole and come up the fourth hole, or the last hole. And then I can go back into the third hole. And then this petal is done, and I'll just continue on stitching my petals over the silver embroidery floss. Here's a close-up look at that. Isn't that cute? So this is such a clever stitching set this month. I have all of my stitching done now, and it's time to assemble this card. I cut out the decorative panel with a piece of Barely Peach cardstock, and I'm gluing it down onto a piece of pink cardstock. And then I can go ahead and attach this to a top-folding card base. This is an A2 sized card, which is 5.5 by 4.25. For my stitching piece, I decided to pop it up with tons of little foam squares, and then I can pop it up on the front of my card. The sentiment I'm going to glue down flat, but I'm just adding a little bit of glue where the corners are going to touch on these petals. And I can just stick that down. I added some silver pearls on top of my stitching, and here's a close-up look at card number 1. Those pearls just finish off this card beautifully. And there's so many fun color combinations that you can use with the cardstock as well as your embroidery floss. I'm definitely going to be trying more color combinations with this die set. Absolutely loved it. As I mentioned, card number 2 is going to be this cute panel that I cut out with the Petal dies. I evenly spaced them onto a piece of pink cardstock. I believe this is the Dahlia Pink, and I wanted to put some fun color behind it. So I'm using some Distress Oxide inks onto a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'm using some pinks and oranges and just spreading that on. It doesn't matter if you have a perfectly smooth blend, because of course the panel on top is going to hide all of the defects. So here's what this is going to look like. I love oranges and pinks together. I decided to pop up the panel with more foam squares and foam strips. And then I'll place it onto the ink blended panel. I didn't get this perfectly straight, so I do have to trim off the edges a little bit before I attach it to the card base. I'll use more glue to do this. And now I can start adding my sentiment and a flower. The sentiment comes from the Everyday Sentiments. It's a new release from Spellbinders and Simon Hurley. I cut out the shadow piece with black cardstock and the words with white. I'll just add a little bit of glue where the sentiment is going to go. And I'll do the same thing with the flower. This flower is also from Spellbinders and Simon Hurley. It's called In Bloom. I'm just going to put one flower at the top of this card. And I'll attach a little leaf at the side. Again, I'm just putting the glue on the top panel. I'll link to the video where I used these products at the end of this video if you want to check those out. Some really fun products from Simon Hurley. To embellish the card, I'm using some jet black pearls. I love these things. I'll just place these around the sentiment. As always, if you want to check out these products, I'll leave the links in the description box. Here's a close-up look at card number 2. I love how playful and fun this one is. I'll definitely be using this petal die to create more backgrounds like this. So again, the star of the video today is the Nested Layered Stitched Petal die set. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you were inspired. Take care. Bye.